being joined by Rad Colonel David B. DeRoche, who is a professor at the Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies, National Defense University. So, welcome to World DNA.
Thank you.
Colonel, I just want to start with this now. US had been very, very mindful of the fact that they don't want the conflict to broaden further in the larger West Asian region. Now that the US president has vowed that US will respond, I wanted to take your thoughts on this. How strongly do you feel US will be able to respond in this region, very well knowing that US actions here can really have that effect of sending the entire region into a dizzy and further war situation?
Yeah, it's a good question. So far, there have been over 170 attacks on U.S. forces in Syria and Iraq. The American response has been extremely measured and, to many in the United States, disappointing. So usually we've managed to intercept up till now the attack or minimize the effect of it. And what we wound up doing was bombing infrastructure, weapon system, vehicles that belong to these groups, to the Iran-directed proxies, mostly in Syria. There have been a few lethal attacks. In one instance where we were able to identify the terrorists who had fired missiles at the Iraqi air base that hosted U.S. forces, and we attacked there. But attacking these Iranian-directed groups in Iraq creates political problems for us with the Iraqis. So I think what we're likely to see now is that we'll escalate the target set to try to get the command and control of these groups and possibly the Iranian Revolutionary Guard officers who provide them support and direction.
Sir, I also wanted to understand over 100 attacks on U.S. coalition forces in Iraq and Syria, multiple attacks aimed towards U.S. ships in the Red Sea. Is Iran's backing one that strong that these militias are taking on a global power like the United States? Also, where are they getting their intel from?
Good question. So there's 2 points here. So the first point is Iran has made a conscious decision to avoid directly confronting the United States or indeed any other country. What they do is because of basically the trauma from the 8-year Iran-Iraq war, they've embarked on a conscious policy of operating through proxy forces. They seek out members of the same religious group as theirs, the Shia school of Islam, in countries that are extremely fragile, and then they build them up by providing weapons, guidance, logistics support, and advisors. And so what you've seen is that they've been very successful in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Iraq, and then as allies of the Syrian regime. That allows Iran to advance its goals, but they realize that they're dealing with a democracy who will say, well, we don't want to go to a war here. Who are we really fighting? So it allows Iran to fight down for its strategic goals down to the last Arab.
I just wanted to take one more. I wanted to take one more aspect here. Now,
sure.
This is just further to what Haim just asked you. Is Iran's backing that strong that any small militia can go ahead and target a power like this U.S.? Because the Houthi rebels, they exist in one part of Yemen. These other resistance forces, they are small factions in Syria and Iraq, barely a few hundreds or little more than that. U.S. has forces deployed all over West Asia. What is giving these rebels the kind of confidence that they're taking on a global superpower like the U.S. in the manner that they have?
Yeah, so, the modern types of weapons we've seen here, nobody's got a really good defense for drones. That's something that everybody's working on because they fly too low to be intercepted by traditional air defense systems. But again, the calculation, they try to figure out where the red line is that will elicit a U.S. response directly against Iranian issues. And then they operate below that, saying, well, does the United States really want to go into a regional war, over some small incident in Syria that, quite frankly, neither the Obama, Trump, or Biden administration has made an adequate case for to the American public. So it's done on a low-level hit-and-run attack. And if you directly ask, if you have an Iraqi diplomat on your show and ask him the question directly, he'll say, this has nothing to do with us. This is some group called the Islamic Resistance in Iraq. It's pretty effective. and they've been doing it for decades, going back to when Lebanese groups used to take hostages in Lebanon. Most notably, the envoy of the Archbishop of Canterbury was held for years. And, again, the Iranians said, well, it had nothing to do with us. But oddly enough, when Iranian demands were met, the hostages were freed. So it's an effective, frustrating means of warfare.
Colonel David DeRoche, thank you so much for joining us and sharing all your insights here. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining World DNA.